Shalom. I just want to start off by saying, Kalayim la Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Want to give the honors to the apostles on the elders, great millstone. Peace and salutations to Fulek and Akim. Spread this truth at the four corners of this earth. My name is Arsareth. And tonight I just want to talk about how you so-called Latinos and Native Americans, man, you are Israelites, of the Northern Kingdom. And I want to talk about how the Northern Kingdom came over here to the land Arsareth, which is the Americas, and also how we're under the curses. So I'm gonna start off in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 45. It says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord Yahweh shall thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever." So these curses were going to follow us, man. And when you go into our word sign, it means distinguishing mark. So these curses were going to be a distinguishing mark, showing who the Israelites are today. Let's jump down to verse 48. Salakia. And it says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord Yahweh Shai shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee." So to this day, we're under oppression from our enemy, man. So-called white man, Esau, Edom, all the tribes. You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, man, you serve Esau, Edom for the want of all things, man. In hunger, you go to him. In thirst, and in nakedness, in want of clothing. When it says, what it says, he shall put a yoke of iron upon thee till he have destroyed thee. And he also did that to us, man. I got this clip I want to show you real quick. This is from the movie Goodbye, Uncle Tom. Which shows you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans under the same captivity, man. Let's see. It's pretty graphic, man, but let me just read this real quick. It says, "Goodbye, Uncle Tom" is a pseudo-documentary which the filmmakers go back in time and visit antebellum America using period documents to examine in graphic detail the racist ideology and degrading conditions faced by Africans, which they were not Africans, they were Israelites under slavery because of the use of published documents and materials from public record. So all of this is public record, and it says, with actors playing the role of the historical figures, the film labels itself a documentary and portrays slave life as a non-stop orgy of violence, rape, and torture committed by whites against their black slaves, which really should say Israelite slaves, because you're going to see Northern Kingdom, so-called Latinos and Native Americans in here too, along with the American Negroes, the Haitians, and the Jamaicans. Let's see. And Esau, you gotta pay. You gotta pay for all this shit, man.
Alive.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty, and you've cut off his hair. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
Right, so during the influx of Southern Kingdom being brought over here, Northern Kingdom themselves were being experimented on, or were amongst us, man. And this scripture right here, Jeremiah 50 and 33, it says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shai of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. And this is talking about Babylon, man. But during the time of Babylon, it was Judah that was oppressed, man. The children of Israel, northern kingdom, were already in Arsareth. So this Babylon that is talking about has to be talking about America. Because it says what we were oppressed together. Even to this day, we serve our enemies for the one of all things, man. And even back then during antebellum slavery, you seen northern kingdom and southern kingdom together. I want to get into the second Ezra 13 and verse 40. Hold on real quick before we hop in there. I just want to grab this Hosea too. This is Hosea 13 and verse 16. Says, Samaria shall become desolate, for she hath rebelled against her power. They shall fall by the sword, their infants shall be dashed in pieces, and their women shall be ripped up. So Samaria, was the dwelling place of northern kingdom, man. It says what it shall become desolate. In that second Esdras, we're going to see how it became desolate. But it says, for she have rebelled against her power, they will fall by the sword, their infants shall be dashed in pieces, and their women with child shall be ripped up. Now I want to go to this article because it says here, from the Washington Post, says here are the indigenous people Christopher Columbus and his men could never annihilate. I'm gonna just read the first paragraph. It says the Lucian did not know it was October 12, 1492. They did not know that their island in what would become the Bahamas had been spotted by Spanish explorer led by a Guyanese man named Christopher Columbus. And they did not know that in less than 30 years, their island would be empty from the coming genocide. So let me just jump down here. We're going to get this part of the book from Bartholomew de las Casas. I'm just going to read it from here. It says Bartholomew de las Casas arrived in Hispaniola, which would be where Haiti and DR sit, in 1502 when he was 18. For decades, he participated in the mistreatment of the Taino and the introduction of enslaved Africans before renouncing it all, becoming a Dominican friar and confessing what he had witnessed in a short account of the destruction of the Indies, which is a book that he had written. It was worth quoting him at length. This excerpt is very graphic. It says they Spanish explorers forced their way into native settlements, slaughtering everyone they found there, including small children, old men, pregnant women, and even women who had just given birth. They hacked them to pieces, slicing open their bellies with the sword as though they were so many sheep herded into a pen. They even laid wagers on whether they could slice a man in two at a stroke, or cut an individual's head from his body, or disembowel him with a single blow of their axes. They grabbed suckling infants by the feet and ripping them from their mother's breasts, dashed them headlong against the rocks, others laughing and joking all the while threw them over their shoulders, shouting, "Wriggle, you little perisher." So these are what these bastards did to us, man. And it's coming straight out of the scripture, man. Because what does it say? It says, they shall fall by the sword. I'm gonna just reread it again. Hosea 13:16. Samaria shall become desolate, for she hath rebelled against her power. They shall fall by the sword. Their infants shall be dashed in pieces, and their women with child shall be ripped up. Like this is the scripture speaking. It says they laid wagers on whether they could slice a man in two at a stroke, or cut an individual's head from his body, or disembowel him with a single blow of their axes. That's falling by the sword, man. They grabbed suckling infants by the feet and, ripping them from their mother's breast, dashed them headlong against the rocks. And there's lots of accounts of Esau doing that shit to Southern Kingdom as well. But this is literally the scripture speaking, man. So how can Northern Kingdom, so-called Latinos and Native Americans, not be the Israelites, man? From there, let's go to 2nd Ezra 13 and verse 40, and explain how the 10 tribes came to this land, which is called Arsareth. It says, those are the 10 tribes. Verse 40 says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So just harping on that, on verse 40, this is Shalmaneser the fifth, king of Assyria. And let's go to 2 Kings 17, where he gives the account of that. And I'm going to just start at verse 1. It says, 2 Kings 17 and verse 1, in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hosea the son of Elah to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land, and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah and in Habor by the river of Gozan, and in the city of the Medes. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, their power, which had brought them up out of the land from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, their power, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced cities. So Northern Kingdom was completely going off, man. They didn't have one righteous king. And they built idols and served idols and did what was abominable in the eyes of the Lord. And so Shalmaneser the fifth came. The Lord allowed Shalmaneser the fifth to come and take them. Verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So they were going to go to a country where never mankind dwelt, man, to keep their laws, statutes, and commandments, which they did not keep in the land of Samaria. Verse 43, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So this is all of the work. This was all the work of the Lord, man. How they got to that land called Arsareth, verse 45. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. So let me go ahead and just grab from let's see, Slovakia. Yep, this is from the Jewish Encyclopedia, the 1906 Jewish Encyclopedia. It says the Arsareth, the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses, until the time of the restoration, according to 4th Esdras 13 and 45. Columbus identified America with this land. See K. Serling, Christopher Columbus, translated by Dr. C. Gross, page 15. Now, like I said, Christopher Columbus identified this land as America. Let's watch this little clip from the movie 1492.
Why do you wish to sail west?
To open a new route to Asia. Asia is the richest kingdom, the land of spices and gold. At the moment, there are only 2 ways of reaching it. By sea, sailing around the African continent. The journey takes a year. Or by land. But the Turks have closed this route to all Christians. There is a 3rd way. By sailing west across the ocean sea.
The distance is unknown. It's said to be infinite.
Superstition. I believe the Indies are no more than 750 leagues west of the Canary Islands.
Can you be so certain?
The calculations of Toscanelli, Marin de Tir, Esdras.
Esdras is a Jew.
So what's worse?
2 minutes, and already you're a dead man.
For telling the truth?
Yes. We are burning people for less. The men you're about to confront have no emotion.
All right, so Christopher Columbus was not trying to find another route to Asia, man. Because reading second, he referenced Esdras, so he read Esdras. And it said what he was going to a further country where never mankind dwelt. And when Christopher Columbus came over here, he brought with him Hebrew interpreters, man. So he knew where he was going, man. And like it said, he referenced Arsareth as America, man. So real quick, I just want to go into 1 Kings 9 and verse 25. 1 Kings 9 and verse 25, and it says, and 3 times in a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar, which he built unto the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai. and he burnt incense upon the altar that was before the Lord. He held by Shemashai, so he finished the house. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion Geber, which is beside Eloth on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. So King Solomon had a navy, and through Hiram, his men had knowledge of the sea, man. So that's how Northern Kingdom knew how to get over here. Verse 28, and they came to Ophir, and they called America Ophir, man, and fetched from thence gold 420 talents and brought it to King Solomon. So let's go to the next chapter. First Kings 10 and verse 21. And it says, and all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold. All the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon, for the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So they would go to this land Ophir, and it would take them 3 years to get there and come back. And so going back to the second Ezra 13 and 40, said it took them a year and a half. It took them a year and a half to get there. Right? It would take them. It'll take the Navy, Solomon's Navy, 3 years to bring back these resources, because it'll take them a year and a half to get there and a year and a half to get back. And this is Second Ezra 13 and verse 45, it says, for through that country there were a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Arsareth, which means another land. But going back, I'm going to just read verse 20. Verse 22 again. For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in every 3 years, the navy of Tarshish bringing gold and silver and ivory, apes and peacocks. So they would come to the Americas and bring back all these exquisite resources, animals. And they're all here, man. I just want to show a map, of how Northern Kingdom left. Because up here, this is the river Euphrates. It says that they left through the Euphrates, and then they came out the Persian Gulf and went around the Horn of Africa and went under it and came. It was in the America, went under Africa and went over to the Americas. I wish I could show a better map. See. Yep, they came, went over the Horn of Africa, and came to the Americas, man. And going, let's see, going back to that map, because it said King Solomon had a navy in Ezion Geber, which would be right here. So being able to, come through here through the Horn of Africa, they would take the same route. The same route would be took. A year and a half to get there for Northern Kingdom, and in 3 years for King Solomon's navy. And it says what? It says going back to the second Ezra 13 and 40, it says they went there verse 42. Second Ezra 13 verse 42, that they might keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And I just want to show a picture of some of the This was a Native American doll, man. And she got the border. She has the border of blue with the fringes on. Where would they get that? Where would they get that style, man? The border of blue with the fringes at the bottom. Like, come on, that's in the law of Moses. And they came to this land to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Real quick, I had pulled up here the Las Lunas Decalogue stone. And it says the Las Lunas Decalogue stone is a large boulder on the side of Hidden Mountain near Las Lunas, New Mexico, about 35 miles south of Albuquerque, that bears a nine-line inscription carved in a flat panel. The stone is also known as the Las Lunas Mystery Stone or Commandment Rock. The stone is controversial in that some claim that the inscription is pre-Columbian and therefore proof of early Shemitic contact with the Americas. Why? Because King Solomon's navy was going there. The northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, they came here to Arsareth, America. This is jumping down here. It says the reported 1880s date of discovery is important to those who believe that the stone is pre-Columbian. However, the Paleo-Hebrew script, which is closely related to the Phoenician script, was known to scholars by at least 1870, thus not precluding the possibility of a modern hoax. I mean, come on now, this is our language. This cannot be a hoax, man. Our people were here. Let's see. Yep, here's some more clothing with some with the border of blue and the fringes at the bottom. Let's see. Yeah, so that's all I had. Hopefully, that was edifying, and showing that, the Latinos and Native Americans are Israelites and how they came over to this land called to this land Arsareth, which is America. I just want to end it off by saying, Kahalayam la Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kakadash, want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders, great millstone. Peace and salutations to Folek and the Akim, spread his truth to the four corners of this earth. Shalom.